February.
All right, y'all. We live, man. I try to catch y'all. I guess y'all seen it.
I seen
it. All right, peace, y'all. We was on here chit chatting about some food, man. But yeah, so today we have. Let me get my book. Today we have The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, and today we will be going over Chapter 4, The First Cataract. The Black World's New Borders. Let me start off with the let's see. Let me get my little commercial popping here for us. And then we'll go into our introductions.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They're in. They're here.
All right, again, peace, everybody. And y'all seen the commercial? I know a lot of our supporters and people in the chat. We got 7 people watching right now. I can't tell if anybody on the Facebook page, but we appreciate y'all support. On the volume 1, the volume 2, and here we are again. We have volume 3, y'all. We have volume 3. It will be releasing this Friday. This is the author's copy, so it's not for sale, but this is what it'll look like. And I know a lot of y'all seen Kofi posted it. It's a beautiful book, man. It's a lot thicker, a lot denser than the last ones. So, because we added to the team. We got our brother Christopher Marshall. He has actually 2 chapters in here. Kofi has 2, and I know Sean got 2. If Kofi got 2, y'all about to start making me do 2. And so y'all be on the lookout for this, and then we're gonna do the deal for 3 of them as well. Am I right, Kofi?
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Doing that. So y'all be on the lookout, and it'll be this Friday. So get your pre-orders in. So yeah, that's enough for me. Go ahead, Kofi.
I want to say ETM House Help, which means come in peace. I want to say Rennie Kofi Paisai, Dua Aku, Dua Necha, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Ribi, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Elakba, Majuba Iba E Elak, Ba Egungun, Kiki Egungun. I always want to give honor and praise to the ancestors, because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. I also want to extend honor and praises to the true and living elders out there, according to our African traditions or African world view. So welcome back, to Kofi Paisai TV. We welcome everybody. Please like and share the show. If you're watching it from YouTube, please like and share it on Facebook. If you're watching it from Facebook, we are streaming from both platforms, the Kofi Paisai Research Team like page and the Kofi Paisai TV official YouTube station. So please like, please share, and welcome.
All right, brother T'Challa.
Peace, everybody. Man, I feel like some days we just be on here all day. I was on a Zoom meeting this morning on Sunday, today. Um, but here we are back, doing our thing. I missed last week. Sundays is kind of an overlap thing for me, but we're gonna make it work. Chancellor Williams, if y'all ain't got this work, y'all really need to do what we doing. Just do a reread, because I'm learning actually a lot just rereading this, and I know the brothers on the panel is enjoying it too. So, like and share the show, and let's get to it.
All right, brother Sutek.
Peace, fam. Shea Lafayette, me, Bawoni. We back at you again with another chapter from Destruction of Black Civilization. Peace to my brothers on the panel. Peace to the chat and all those that will view this in the archives. Please make sure you like and share the show. Like Brother Satep said, man, we got volume 3 coming at you real soon here in a couple of days. So make sure y'all ready for that. You get your pen and your pad out. Make sure y'all ready to take notes and hopefully learn something.
All right, that's peace. All right, yeah, we can go ahead and get started, man. Like I said, this is the first cataract, the Black world's new borderline. So I don't know. I don't have nothing highlighted until page 122. Do anybody have anything preceding that? Your mic muted, Kofi.
I didn't really take notes on where I wanted to start at, but we can start from the beginning. We can start because I mean it don't matter what we go with. I got something for each page. It don't matter, but I'm not gonna hog up the show. But we can kind of talk. We can kind of break down the first page of chapter 4, the first cataract of the Black world, new borderline. I'll just read it, and as I read, I can stop and pause, and we can kind of talk about it. If anybody got something that want me to stop where I'm reading it, I'll stop, but I'll start it off if that's all right.
Go ahead.
All right. So anybody else that got this book right here, you can take it out. I'm gonna start from page 118. This is the beginning page of chapter 4. So let's get it in. It says, having lost both Upper and Lower Egypt, Ethiopia, northern borders have been pushed to the first cataract at Asane, and Nocho II eventually became the king, beginning with the 26th dynasty, 665 to 525 BCE. Now, I'll start right there, just to kind of give people some brief information. Peace, Brother Sanel. Peace, Queen Cheetah. Peace to everybody. Thermal Murder. I'm not looking at everybody in the chat, but peace to those in the chat. But just going back to what we was talking about in chapter 3, where it's talking about, okay, we stopped like at the 25th dynasty. We stopped at the 25th dynasty with Pianki, Tahaka, and I'm missing another Nasubiti. But we stopped right there with the 25th dynasty. Now he's talking about the 26th dynasty. Now when you get to the 26th dynasty, this is completely the end of the Egyptian reign, or the Kemetu reign in Egypt. And you start to see all of these, he's setting up, you start to see all these other different people, these other different foreigners coming in and taking over Egypt. And I want to talk about that a little later, because I want to talk about and even get some input from the brothers on the panel and people from this watching about what was the mind state of the people when they gave up. Because when you look at the chapters that we've been reading, they've been, especially the third chapter, there's been invasions. There've been invasions one after another, and they've been fighting back and regaining Upper Kemet, and then straight trying to push them out of Upper Kemet. But we're dealing with the 26th dynasty right now. The Egyptian armies were increasingly made of foreigners and enslaved blacks. It was during this dynasty that the Assyrians were expelled again, this time the nationalistic Egyptians. The black lost their beloved Memphis, Thebes, and the Egyptians' name of the second now seems to be final. The other invasions came. The Persians up under Darius. The Greeks took over the domination of Egypt, like in 525 to 405 BCE, with the assistance of the Greek mercenaries. The return of the 343 BCE to the reestablishing their rule. But again, for the relative short duration, Alexander reached the Egypt in 332 BCE, and on his world conquering rampage. So he's just letting you know right here that we talking about when we get to the 26th dynasty. We broke down all those dynasties. The last chapter we've been breaking them down. In the other chapter, we talked about the first period, the pre-dynastic period, the first dynasty, the first intermediate period. You know what I'm saying? The Middle Kingdom, the New Kingdom, and etc. So we talked about those Nasut Biti. So now in the 25th dynasty, you no longer see them. You no longer see the Ramich of the Kemetu fighting back for portions of their land anymore. You start to see, like he's talking about, the Persians start to come in. The Greeks, Alexander the Greek, came in. Then you got the Romans that came in. After they came in, then you had the Arabs to come in. Behind this, you no longer see the Kemetu, which we're going to talk about that because I want to see where people think the psychology or what the mind state of the people was in Egypt after so long. But again, in the great general of ancient world, it was also the empress of Ethiopia. It was the formidable Black Queen Candace, empress of Ethiopia. This was a formidable Black Queen Candace, and I wish Sean was on here because he dealt with Queen Candace, and Queen Candace, I think it means mother queen, or ruler woman, somewhere in that effect. So it was a lot of different Candace in Ethiopia, and we talked about that last week when we talked about the brothers and the sisters in the South, when we talked about the integration and how the people in the South, the Ethiopians, or the people in Nubia, Tai-Nahisi or Tai-Seti, whichever place you refer to call it to, we know the people in the South, they did not agree with those policies that Menes set forth, the policies that Menhotep set forth, the policies that Atmos set forward with the policies of integration, where they was fighting, and once they took back a part or a portion of Egypt, they let these invaders cohabitate with them, live amongst them. So they integrated those people in with their customs, and the brothers in the South did not like that. And now he's talking about when you start to see these invaders, they just completely take over, and the Egyptians lost the fight, fighting back. So to say, you still had the people in the South that wasn't having that, and they continued to fight off these foreigners. But Queen Candace, this particular Queen Candace in Ethiopia, the Greeks, he's telling you that the Greeks was actually scared of Queen Candace. So it goes on to say that it was a formidable Black Queen Candace, world famous as a military, tactical, and field commander. This was a queen. Legends that has Alexander could not entertain even the possibility of having his world famed and unbroken chain of victory married by risking the defeat. World fames of unbroken chains of victory married by the risk of defeat, and last by a woman. He halted his armies at the borders of Ethiopia and did not invade to meet the waiting Black armies with Queen and the personal commandment. Upon his demands, one of his most outstanding personal commands, upon his death, one of his most outstanding, general became Pharaoh of Ptolemy. So we talking about, we started talking about when it goes from Greek, it goes to the Ptolemies area. So you start to see the Ptolemies era, you start to see a lot of things that's dealing with the Ptolemies. Ptolemies the first thus began 300 years of the Macedonian/Greek rule. Toward the end of the Greek domination, and I'm gonna stop here in a minute, expansion of the Roman Empire had transferred the real centers of power of Romans, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans. The continued process of transforming the Black civilization into a near-white civilization long before the Christian era. So you start to see right there, that after the 25th dynasty, the people in Kemet, the Remich of the Kemetu began to lose their fight, and you start to see the Greeks rule for over 300 some years. You start to see that it's Kemet eventually begins to become white. I just want to throw a question out here, and we'll get back deeper into it. But what? Okay, if for people that's been following it or read the Chancellor Williams' work, The Destruction of Black Civilization, we know we were talking about the people, the foreigners that has been coming in. You know, he refers to them. Chancellor Williams referred to them as white people. You know, these Asians, he's referred to these Asians as white people. And we know the Asians has been there since the pre-dynastic period during Menes. We know Menes was the one that set forth or set in place those integration policies that was the downfall of Kemet, was the integration of these people that they began to kick out of rule of a certain portion of Egypt. They didn't rule the entire Egypt. They ruled a certain portion, Lower Egypt. You know, where they tried to make their way into Kemet. But and you can see through the, like I'm saying, with the breakdown of the government, when it starts to go into these different intermediate periods, you start to see strife amongst each other, and you start to see the government break down when they talk about the first intermediate period. So when you get to these intermediate period, these foreigners will always come back in. These Asians, or what Chancellor Williams refers to as the white people, will always come back in because they lived amongst them. You know, Menes set these policies. It's okay. We kick y'all out of this place as being on the throne and ruling this certain area, this certain geographical location. But it's okay for you to live amongst us. You know, it's okay for you to copulate with our women, which you will see when we talked about the three. After the integration, it became three groups of people: the Asians that was in Kemet. Then you start to see the Afro-Asians, which was the mixed breeds of the mulattoes, and then you see the Egyptians. So they begin to be three groups of people that was in Egypt. But I'm trying to forget. Oh, but my question is, and I'm just trying to give some context and explain to people that haven't been watching the Remich of the Kemetu has been fighting. And when you study those first, the dynastic up to the first dynasty, to the first intermediate period, to the Middle Kingdom, the second intermediate period, to the new dynasty, this new revolution that came in during the 17th, going into the 18th dynasty, they have been fighting off these foreigners. But when you get to the 26th dynasty, once you get past Shabaka, Tahaka, and Pianki, they lose the fight. So I don't know if what do y'all think exactly what was the cause of them giving up the fight, and then Kemet eventually become ran by these foreigners all the way up to the day. We still have the Arabs, after the Romans came in, the Arabs came in. I think they went out, then they came back in. The Arabs came back in. The Arabs been in Kemet ever since then. I think it's the Arab Republican of Egypt now. The Arab Republican. I don't even think they have Egypt associated with it now. But the psychology of the people, do y'all think that the Kemetu or the Remich gave up because they were just tired of fighting, because they have been fighting for centuries of these Asiatics? And do they think, or do they know that they made a mistake when they made these integrational policies? And even when you study that and going to Ethiopia, the South helped them when they reunited the first time. The South did not help Menhotep when he reunited Kemet for the second time, because Kemet have been reunited 3 times. We always talk about one when Kemet was reunited. But what y'all think about that? What y'all think about the psychology of the people, man, after the 25th dynasty? Why they just actually gave up, man, from fighting off these foreigners, and then these Assyrians, the Arabs, the Greeks, the Romans, etc. Took over Egypt.
I think he gets into it later in the chapter, and I believe it's based off technology. And I got a couple highlights. So I believe it. I don't necessarily think they gave up, but it was due to unforeseen outcomes based on this material that we can discuss later that led to what I believe to be the downfall.
Mm-hmm.
That's me, Satet.
Okay.
What about you, T'Challa?
I mean, that makes sense. I kind of bring it in perspective of like right now, what would be a reason for us to say Kofi Paisa research team was stationed, where you at, Satet, and we needed to move. We have been fighting these invaders. What would be the reasons that we would move? Right now today, like what would motivate us to just give up? Or I don't even necessarily know if the term give up is appropriate, but like you said, you make a good point. Technology really rules all, and it's been ruling ever since. Like, is that really not been the case?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
About Sutek.
Yeah, y'all go ahead. I'll catch up. I'll catch up on the next point, man. I'm having technical difficulties over here.
Okay. Well, anybody else can start on the next page, but I just wanted to start that off. Just start that first page off, and bring people up to speed of what was going on. But yeah, you can go next, Satip.
Okay. So let's see what I said. I was on page 122. All right, let's see. Where my little marker at? Color racism for religion.
I bet you was on this page, Satet.
I'm trying to figure out where I was at, though. I usually make like a little bitty mark because I know I do not like writing in my book. Okay, here we go. All right. I guess I can read the whole paragraph. So I'm at the very bottom paragraph.
22?
Yeah, 122. It says this attitude might also explain the hostility of the Southern blacks towards the Afro-Asian. The latter were not true Africans because they were becoming Egyptians, a mixed breed of many races. They were therefore traitors in the eye of the true Africans, whose badge of eternal honor was the blackness of their skin. This was color racism, deeply rooted for it sprang from religion. And that's what I want to get into. They were children of the sun, blessed with the blackness by the sun God himself, and thus protected from his fiery rays. They were his children. Their very blackness, therefore, was religious, a blessing and an honor. Now, what I want to discuss first is when he talks about this was color racism deeply rooted and it sprang from religion. Now I know just in my experience, I know religion, certain texts, certain stories inside that book promotes that, and I believe in Mormon history or Mormon. The Mormons, they believe that why black people got black skin is because and this is what they say. Don't quote me, but it's somewhere around there. But whenever the war between heaven and hell, between Satan and God, the people who chose to side with Satan, he ultimately lost the battle, and they were cast down to earth, and then they were their skin was turned darker so that you will be able to distinguish the angels or the people who sided with Satan or something. So, and I also know in the Mormon Church that they didn't allow any black priests until I believe 1978, I believe. So, racism is definitely rooted in religion. It's definitely in there. Y'all got anything on that?
Yeah, they go back to and hand in hand with the so-called curse of Ham, that Ham seen his father's nakedness, which was Moses, and he was supposedly cursed with black skin. Now, even though the Bible doesn't say this, it says the curse was supposed to be on Canaan. And what is that? I can't think of what it's in. I can't think of the name right now, but in one of those earlier religious literatures, um, it was changed from Canaan to Ham.
Mm.
Therefore, you get the quote unquote curse of Ham with the blackness of the skin and so forth.
Because I was still trying to figure out how, when you get to what's the name? He have 3 different color sons. He got Asian sons, yellow people. He got the white folks with Shem, and then you got Ham with the black.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, man. That little part stood out to me, and I was like, yeah, man. I'll jot it down. No color racism for religion, because I believe that stuff is rooted in religion. I don't got a problem with the brothers that deal with religion, as long as they ain't pushing it on nobody. But
also, if you want to know more about that, the colorism, and closer to its origin, get volume 2. I got a chapter on there that deals with the what my hypothesis is, or my theory is on the origins of colorism, aka modern racism.
That's peace. Yeah, I ain't got nothing else. Kofi, what you got?
I was trying to bag up and see if I kind of wanted to go up top, because we'll go up top. Let's just go back. Let's just still deal with this page, because we're talking about the people in the South. I want to talk a little bit more about the people in the South too, because the people in the South, this is my opinion and what I observed for is what I have been reading, not just from Destruction of Black Civilization, that the people in the South, and for, I keep saying the people in the South, I'm just talking about, I know people refer to that place today as Nubia, which is a misnomer, Ethiopia, which is a misnomer. We know that they not called itself, that place Nubia, wasn't that called themselves Ethiopia, that referred to as Ta-Nehisi or Ta-Seti, the land of the bow. So, and this place was plentiful for gold, but it was plentiful for other different things. So the people in the South, in my opinion, was smarter than the Egyptian was, because we keep talking, we keep reiterating, and we talking about these policies, because now we continue. We're talking about the people in the South. We're talking about the breakdown of Egypt, and we're talking about how it becomes white, or it becomes ruled by foreigners after the 26th dynasty, after they stopped fighting. But you always had the people in Ethiopia did not rock with Egyptians' policies, and they helped with the unification after the first time, but after the other 2 times, they did not help with the unification, because they had a problem with mixing or cohabitating, or welcoming in outsiders into their community or into their country. So, and the people in the South, to me, like I said, was smarter, but the people in Egypt, when we talk about the building stages, when we talk about the mastabats, and where they went from building in the mud, and then they go to building in, they start building with limestone. When we get to the Zoja, we get the step pyramid. The step pyramid comes from off the mastabat. Mastabat is a Arabic word that means bench. These buildings that look like benches, and then from that building that look like benches, they begin to stack buildings, and you begin to get the King Zoja. With the help of Imhotep, you get the step pyramid. So now you start still the building stages in limestone, and a lot of this stuff they was getting from out of the people in the South, the people that I say that was smarter, that knew what was going to happen if they integrated the people. So let's just talk about right here. From one thing, the land of the South of Egypt had developed a strong economic that was continuous, enriched by the thriving export of trade. in paper, from a paper, which, you know, they made papyrus from that. You got ivory, gold, ebony, emerald, copper, incense, ostrich feathers, always greatly in demand. And in its famous decorated earthware, a strong economic also meant the strong Ethiopian army, posing a threat even to the African-ruled Egypt. From the Egyptian viewpoint, the land of the blacks was the threshold thread. Historically, the blacks who had fled below the first cataract to escape the various conquests never seemed to accept those conquests as final, and attempted to retake Egypt from time to time. These repetitions are deliberate because now nowhere in history is the very important fact clearly stated, but it is clear that having reconquered the Asian dominant Lower Egypt, the black pharaohs sought to integration with the Asian instead of driving them out of the country, which I talk about. This policy of moderation and accommodation was apparently anathema to the extremist Ethiopia. Now he's calling the people in the South extremists. They wasn't going for that, y'all. They was not going for that. They weren't going for that integration. But extremist Ethiopians, proud blacks whom proposed and having their children come into the world with a color distinct difference from their own was a one and an insult to their watching ancestors, an offense to the gods of themselves. So, and shoot, we'll go back to that line. But a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about when we talk about the people in the South, the Remich of the Kemetu that was in Egypt, they was getting their stuff when they was going through their revolution of building during a time of peace. And we talk about, you know, building take place, things are achieved through a time of peace before all chaos broke off and the government begins to collapse and the agents began to take back over. But a lot of the material and stuff was coming from the brothers in the South. These same people saying, nah, we ain't going for that integration. We ain't going for those darn policies that y'all trying to set forth. Y'all want to kick them out, you know, kick them out from being on the throne or ruling a certain era, but you want them to live amongst them. But they provided paper for the Remich. They provided ivory, gold, because, you know, we get Nubia, or what people say Nubia when you go back to the word for gold in Kemet is Nub. So Nub is gold. So Nubia was plentiful of Nub, which is gold. They was plentiful for these ostrich feathers, which you will see depicted on the walls in Kemet. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times the feather, you know, when we talk about the feather, we talk about Ma'at, or we talk about the double hall scenes of Ma'at. When your heart is being weighed on the scale, your heart got to be light as a feather when you're going through judgment or whatever the case. But you seen different deities, not even different deities. You seen different Nasubitis, whether they was men or women, because women also served as a role as a king or had the title as the king. King is not a masculine term. Am I correct on that? T'Challa, king is not a masculine term. King is a title. It's not a title just specifically for a man.
That's correct.
So they provided all these things to the king. Well, anyway, when you start to see these feathers, but going back to the policies, it says that, but it was clear that the reconquering of Asia dominated Lower Egypt, which we've been talking about this chapter and last chapter, how the Asians, or Chancellor Williams say the white, or these foreigners, you know what I'm saying, would take over Lower Egypt every time the land collapsed. So, and again, the brothers in the South, it created a problem. You know, it created a problem for the brothers and sisters in the South and the brothers and the sisters in the North, because the Remich wanted to keep these policies that was implemented by Menes during the pre-dynastic period. So the policy was implemented during the pre-dynastic period, and they kept those policies up for centuries after centuries, and the South didn't like that. So it caused a rift between the two brothers, which a lot of people refer to Nubia, or Ethiopia, or Ta-Nehesi, or Seti as the mother of Egypt. And it just caused a rift between the two where they begin, where you will see where they start to fight, which we're going to get to when we get into Seneferu, because I want to pick some people brains when we get into Seneferu, because Seneferu was he was a brother from the South. He was a brother from the South, but he did something that I didn't agree with, but I didn't agree with, but we'll get into that. But it says the Black Pharaohs saw integration with Asians instead of driving them out of the country. So that would cause the conflict between the Egyptians and the Ethiopians because of those policies. I'm trying to just give some context so people can understand where the rift came into place, because some people may not know where the rift started out when you start to see, because I hear that argument all the time where the Egyptians fought with the Nubians or the Ethiopians. This was why, because of those integrational policies. And then, you know, Chancellor Williams called the Ethiopians extremist Ethiopians. And these Ethiopians was proud blacks for whom they prospect of having their children come into the world with a color distinctly different from their own, was at once an insult. So now they saying that the people that didn't look like them was an insult, you know, and this was something they wasn't trying to have, because they understood with the integration would come breeding of other people, which we talked about in the other chapters, where you had the Egyptians, which the Egyptians vary with different other ethnic groups within Africa. It was not one specific ethnic group. And then you see from the Africans or the Egyptians or the Kemetu or the Remich, one people, then you start to see the foreigners come in, these Asians. So now you got two groups of people in Egypt now, the Africans or the Kemetu or the Remich, and then you got the Asians, and then you got another race that was created, or group that was created, which was these Afro-Asians, you know, these mixed breeds. And we talked about that, you know, they playing both sides of the field at certain particular times, but they also had a hatred for Africans. And Africans had a hatred for these Afro-Asians, these Asians that slept with Egyptians. And the people in the South was not trying to have that, so they feel like that was an insult to them, and they feel like that was an insult to their ancestors, you know. And they knew that this amalgamation of these foreigners would be the downfall. So this is why they always push back from them, you know, reaching, you know, because they thought once they got into Upper Egypt, they will break through these cataracts and get into Ethiopia, and and the people in Ethiopia or Nubia, the Ta-Nehesi or said they wasn't trying to have that. But going on to what you said, it says the second already. I'm on page 123 for people following. It's coming right behind what Seneferu was talking about with the religion, and he's talking about these are the things that were actually broke down and destroyed Kemet. Second was already stated was that the economics. Egypt's own flourishing export trade, both by sea and caravans, depended heavily on her import from the South. So the South was very important to Kemet, but I don't understand if the South was very important, because it says right here that the Egyptians' own flourishing export trade, both by sea and caravan, depended heavily on her import from the South. So now we talking about the people in the South. And again, I told you that the people in the South provided gold, they provided ivory, they provided papyrus or paper, where you start to see the Egyptians start to write on the papyrus. When we talk about these different papyruses, when you study Egypt, writing, ebony, emeralds, copper, and incense, ostrich feathers that you start to see depicted on Ma'at, or you start to see depicted on various Nisut Bitties on the wall, and etc. It says to cut these off would mean economic pandemic and otherwise preposterous land. This is gonna go into when we get to Seneferu, because the South was very important for Egypt. But Egypt and the South had a rift because of the King Menes made those integrational policies, and they was not for those policies. And then they seen over time, over and over with the unification of Egypt, that these foreigners was no good and it was destroying the land or breaking it down or whatever the case may be, or this will become the downfall of Egypt because of the amalgamation. So when you get with these amalgamations, you start to get influence, you start to get a new breed of people, which the Ethiopians said was an assault to them, an assault to their ancestors. You also start to see that the things that they practice, you know, they may have begun to amalgamate some of the things that the foreigners had, which may contradict some of the things that they had, you know, or etc., or start to replace their train of thought with something else, or a direction they was going into another direction that may be their detriment, which that was the case. You start to see those things, and it says the third great fear concerns that the mighty Nile River, supposed to be the Ethiopians, decided to bring Egypt to her knees and starve her to death by diverting the water by the Nile, believing it is possible was the ancient, and it ran deep. So I'm gonna just stop there. I just wanted to kind of give y'all some more breakdown or some context on the Ethiopians in the South and what they provided and what was some of the foresight that the people in the South seen that probably would happen. But even with those people in the South and their, you know, this caused a strife and they begin to fight. Seneferu, when you get to, I think Seneferu might be our third dynasty king. He does something that I does not agree with because he comes from the South. Okay, he starts out the fourth. He comes from the South. But I'll stop right there. And that's on page 123. That's all I got right there.
Okay. So and now I'm on page 25. If anybody got anything else on page 23, I'm gonna go to page 25. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right, so this, Kofi, answers your question earlier that you posed. And what was the question that you posed earlier?
Why the Ramich, the Kemetu, or the Egyptians, what was their mind state? What was their psychology like? Why did they stop fighting after they had been fighting for centuries to make sure that these people was not on the throne in Lower Egypt and even try to conquer Upper Egypt? What happened? Why did they stop fighting? Because after the 25th dynasty, they just stopped fighting.
Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and answer that. Okay, let's see. All right, so it says the blacks apparently have been more concerned with the development of their copper industry than with iron. Iron ore was in abundance. Was in abundance. The earlier. Hold on, man. Okay. Look up.
Them suckers. Don't nobody know what I'm talking about, but them suckers.
The earlier failure to exploit it, especially for the military weapons, was the reason Assyrians, with their superior iron weapon, were able to sweep the blacks out of Egypt, invading the heartland and destroying the holy city of Napta. And so that's what I'm saying is because, and then I got something on this that's going to follow up this specific thing right here that I'm talking about. But it's basically saying that the Egyptians was more concerned with copper than they were with iron. And the critical thing about that, if you know your metals, is that copper is a lot softer than iron. Iron is a lot more harder. And the crazy thing is the Egyptians or the Africans, they have been smelting iron longer than anybody, you know, longer than anybody.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So it's like the reason I don't know why they. Well, he tells you why they do it later, but it's like I don't know if I would let that overcome, my enemies. I don't know, because like that's basically the downfall is technology. Africans had the technology early, but they weren't utilizing it. You know what I'm saying? And then the enemy, they talk about the Assyrians. They were using iron ore while the Egyptians were still using that copper. So yeah, man, that's kind of answers your question, Kofi. And then later in the chapter, he really expounds on it.
Yeah, and that's kind of always kind of been our downfall was technology. Even when we go up and we get to the 14th century and we get to the Atlantic kidnapping trade or even before, it's the technology that comes in, man. We get behind or we get comfortable on certain things, man. And technology or advanced technology was our downfall. Even when you go back and you look at the Hyksos or the Hekakasu, you see, the technology. They had the wheels. They had, on the chariots. So that was a technology that they had, and this was something that they used. They used in war to defeat the Egyptians with. And this was a form of technology. When you go look at and we talking about the Hyksos or the Hekakasu, y'all. So that's who we're talking about. So, you see that technology right there that defeated them. But then, the Egyptians took it, mastered it, and then they began to utilize the new technology that the Hyksos or the Hekakasu brung into Kemet. So yes, it's always been technology. Yeah.
Somebody in the chat said copper conducts energy.
Nikki, peace, Sister Nikki.
Said the pyramids have copper in the tops. We also need it in our body. I don't know, man. What's up with that, Sutek? All right. Let me see. All right, I ain't got nothing else to page about 29. So if y'all got anything in between there,
yeah, go ahead.
2 pages.
Sutepanrao, Sutek, not Sutepanrao, but Sutek or T'Challa.
Man, I got the whole next 3 pages highlighted, 127 to 1. You already know.
Let's get it in, baby. Let's get it in. Look at Peace Brother Side. He says copper occurs to COVID. Like, I need to go out and get me some of that, dude. I need a whole suit.
Yeah, man.
I need a whole suit, Asar. Yeah, but peace, Brother Side. And again, for those before we go in, if you just if you're tuning in, we're on chapter 14 in destruction of Black civilization. And also if you on and if you on here, please but please subscribe if you had subscribed to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel, please. But let's go on. We on page 126. For those that may have their books, T'Challa's gonna be starting on page 126 if you want to follow along.
No, I'm actually starting on 127.
27. Okay.
The development of writing.
Okay. Oh, okay. I figured that. Okay. All right.
The first paragraph, well, let's just go into it. So, a distinguished line of leaders followed Tanutamon. Now, I'm gonna be like Kofi and mess up the names because we don't. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what they were saying, how they was pronouncing it anyway exactly. So we know that, we understand that.
Yeah, they're tentative. The pronunciation is tentative.
Yeah.
Ain't that what we was taught? Is tentative.
Oh, you gotta say it like that, brother Kofi. I feel like you try to. All right. So, to the throne in 653 BC. Skip past all the names and palace, temple, and pyramid builders all. 2 of the greatest temples were built by King Aspalta at Meroe. the Sun Temple, and the Temple of Amun. So, um, I think I was talking about me being in a conversation with people debating about Mesopotamia being the cradle of civilization. You know, that ongoing argument. And when people argue that, I ask them from looking at the architecture in Kemet and looking at this, the why did they choose to build the structures in the shapes that they did, and do you see, I guess what I'm asking, Levant area influence in the architecture to the point where you can have a link to say that this is what style developed based out of coming from that area, from the Asiatics, as racism and white supremacy pushes. You know what I'm saying? With the suggestion that people from the Levant travel down into Africa and civilize as they travel around the world and civilize the world. Or do you see the architecture reflect signs of coming from where? The South.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see architecture in what are the columns? This is a jewel actually pulling from Brother Asar. Peace to Brother Asar. Because I heard him say this on one of his presentations, numerous presentations, about exactly what these columns are, what the structures are in Kemet. Because people talk about the architecture in Kemet, like from the outside, especially the Hebrews attacking Kemet and Africa, and they want to talk about the architecture and how Sumerians basically gave the Egyptians what they did. And of course, using, all of the Greek terms and all of that, you don't see that architecture reflect that. It's clear where the architecture comes from. You got some, Brother Sutek?
I was just going to say, it's clear what not to deviate too far from your point, but it's clear where the culture comes from too. Like we don't big up the Kustal incense burner enough. That's one of the major archaeological finds that let us know that a lot of this culture was coming from the South.
Exactly. So the pillars and the structures in Kemet are reflective of their environment from whence they migrated from. Because we know the terrain dealing with Africa up south, as it was referred to, according to the Ramech, up south, what was towards up south? Was it flatlands towards up south? Or did you have some mountains? Did you have, some valleys? Did you have where the Nile splits?
You had mountains, didn't you have mountains? You had valleys, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the famous Mountain of the Moon. Shout out to Doc Ben.
You had the Bakar Hill, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And, we'll get in there and we'll start talking about Napata.
Mm-hmm. So that point I always want to drive, like that sticks out to me, because that gets into what Brother Sutek was saying with the culture, in terms of, was it flatlands? The culture comes from the South, and it's reflective in the writing. And this is, still I'm a novice in terms of reading the glyphs, understanding, how to, which, establish the direction, which way the glyphs are facing. And, it's that I'm a novice. You see what I'm saying? But what I do understand from dealing with different languages, especially in Africa, you look at what they're depicting, either through the stories, through the music, through the writing, through the hair, through the dress, all of those things, you look at their culture. So the anthropology aspect of being educated on a level where you can understand what field you need to actually research in order to answer certain questions, to be able to have the right kind of conversation when you want to say, where culture comes from in Africa, because that's a disrespect to all of the Africans that made up Kemet, to say that their culture is a Levant, Middle Eastern little couple of football yards of square footage compared to Africa. No disrespect to the cultures that do come out of there, but I'm saying in terms of retrospect to how the landmass, you have too much biological diversity and cultural diversity on the continent to talk about their anything on Africa pre-colonialism. Oh, it's all 100% from the Levant coming in and giving them all of that. That's crazy. That's absurd.
Yep.
Second paragraph. For the Africans themselves had invented writing, and all attempts to connect this ancient achievement with Egyptian or Asiatic influence have failed. Here, the external influence school has suffered a major defeat because the written records found on statues, altars, tombstones, graffiti, etc., were so distinctly African that their native origin cannot be successfully disputed. Moreover, the African system of writing was very different from the Egyptian. It was simpler and had vowels, whereas Egyptian had none. There were 23 characters or letters in the African alphabet, 4 vowel signs, 17 consonants, and 2 signs of the syllable. Now, let me stop. Brother Kofi, Brother Satep, y'all want to hop in?
Go ahead, man. Rock it.
Okay. We're gonna just keep moving. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was trying to see where you was at because I was trying to follow along. I thought you was still up here where the temple, you down here. I see you down here where it says for the African themselves has invented writing and all attempts connected to the ancient achievement. Okay, Asiatic influence has failed. Here's the eternal influence school. We'll come back to that. Let me because I want to get because I had that highlighted too for a reason, and I can't remember why I had that highlighted. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, we'll keep moving to finish off the paragraph.
Okay.
With the Ethiopian language being more simple, would that mean that it was the precursor?
That's a go ahead, Kofi.
Oh, go ahead. No, because I don't know. I don't know if it was the precursor or not. Brother Saw, if you on here, you probably could elaborate a little bit more.
Well, see, what I got out of it was they was talking a little bit more about Hieratic and Coptic. You know what I'm saying? Because it said when I was reading it earlier, let's see, it said something about the way they wrote it, African inscription. I thought that this is a good discussion right here because I thought that's why I was waiting to say something because I'm like I thought he was talking about because we talking about the later dynasties. You feel me?
Right.
And if you follow the writing system of
right.
if we talking about the later dynasty, I'm thinking he talking about Coptic and Hieratic. That's why I'm like, hold on, no, that can't be. It can't be a precursor to it because we talking about the 25th, 26th dynasty.
Right. Yes, when you see, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was
So we're gonna keep moving. What was it? Oh, new concepts and new or special words and 2 signs. Oh, my bad. New and special words could be easily introduced by the old picture system. Like I said, I got this whole page highlighted. Like clarity and easy reading was assured by measured spacing between words. A system of numerical symbols for mathematics was developed. The African inscriptions on monuments and such records of those found in royal tombs were in a special category. General writing was done on tablets of wood and skins prepared for that purpose. Such things as rocks, walls, vases, and broken bits and pieces of earthenware comprised other artifacts where ancient African writing was found. I made a statement about the language in terms of, well, the multiple languages, just like we have multiple, I guess you want to say, dialects of the English language, and multiple languages here on the North American continent alone. Because I mean, you just do the history of how Black people have been speaking in this country. We got a couple of different languages that have arose, you know what I'm saying, out of just speaking English. And so I say that to say, when we text nowadays, depending on who you texting and depending on the mood of that person you texting, I mean, if we were able to save the screenshot, 500 years later, 1,000 years later, 2,000 years later, people could talk about you were speaking a different language to that person and then flip back to English. And looking at that, bringing it home to dealing with the glyphs, if you know enough about the language to be able to read it and to look at to know that, okay, these type of birds, when you start to get into all of the category signs with the birds, and you know that these kind of birds, some of them birds deep in Africa, like you ain't getting those birds in other places. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with just looking at, so I'm describing what would be the equivalent of, you know, the letters or the what comprises the word. So we always want to look at, when we're studying history, we're studying the culture, we want to deal with not trying to make a biased claim of, oh, my people's culture started this, or my people's culture built pyramids first, and my people's culture, you know, took this idea around the world. Like, you got to understand that certain cultures have certain nuances in their culture that is reflective of the geographical location of where they live, which disputes any, you know, white supremacist claim about who influences these people and caused them to build what they built. The pyramids in Central America and you know what I'm saying, dealing with the Mayans and that era, the Aztecs and the Incas and all of that history and their structures and their artifacts. I don't look at that and say that that's African. That doesn't look African to me. It's vast similarities, sure, of course, but it doesn't look African to me, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like some people that also have jungles and they learn how to mix some paint, make paint, the idea of coloring, and they come up with their, you know, they got their own language and they're piercing, body piercing, distinguishing, all of that. Tattoos, of course. You know what I'm saying? But studying African culture, that's not African culture.
From what I gather about those so-called pyramids, I don't call them pyramids. The ones in not North America, but the South America, is most of those were natural structures, and so that's one clear distinction. The pyramids in Kemet were built. Another distinction would be what they were used for. A lot of these quote unquote pyramids would be places of residence for a lot of the upper class people. So they would live on top of these so-called pyramids. Like that. So you get a clear distinction on the architecture, and you have a clear distinction on the usage of these so-called pyramids.
So them pyramids ain't African, is what you telling me? They ain't African.
Not at all. I apologize to brother Van Sertima and anybody else, brother Imhotep and all them who try to make them African, but we know now with further research that they are not connected to Africa in any kind of way. And if those people trying to force a narrative that Egypt is responsible for everything, those people are called hyperdiffusionists.
And he mentioned two people that he mentioned Sertima. He mentioned Imhotep, David Imhotep, but that's who you're referring to, Sutek.
Correct.
Okay, and I have both of those books, where they're stating such things. Now we're not making over here we don't do like the disrespect or anything like that. So I'm just throwing it out there so people won't say that the Kofi Paisai research team disrespect the ancestor and then disrespected that. I'm just throwing because people will do that,
Right.
and that's not what we're doing. We
can beat up on David though.
we ain't
You
gonna
got
beat
that?
up.
You got that book?
I got the book on the shelf. I read that book. Maybe I read that book 2015. Or 2000.
Man.
So
you want a whole rack for the revised edition? You want $1,000 for the revised edition?
So
ain't gonna buy this.
I know I ain't, but I'm just throwing it out there so people won't be saying that that's what we doing. That's not what we doing, and we doing it in respect. And we done talked about these things, and we can talk about it respectively because no one is above critique. No one is above critique. None of us is above critique. And we say this a lot, when you put your information out there to the public, you put your information out there to be scrutinized. So, and I say it all the time when I do things. I don't have a problem with people scrutinizing my information. When I put information out there or we put information out there, as long as you do it with respect and you do it with taste, and that's what we're gonna do. I never speak a lot about it. I'll write it before I, just speak it a lot. But we not doing. I just want to throw that out there so people won't be going back and say, well, damn, they was disrespecting Sertima and they was talking about them. Oh, that's not what we were doing.
But you know what, Kofi? This is where I get on my communication pet peeve. Like, if you tuned into the video and you listening to the video and you listen to what's being said, Brother Sutek said, I apologize, respected, ancestor Ivan Van Sertima. That's what that came out of his mouth. He gave the disclaimer already. So if you actually tuned into the conversation, for you to take and go to another way and do the straw man argument, make up something that we never said, that's not cool. And in certain environments, you do that, it's heavier consequences. We all understand that. You know what I'm saying? So we should just practice good character and not do that, I just want to finish off this page because this whole page, footnote and all, is kind of like, it's deep.
All right. Where you at, child?
I'm on one page, 127.
Okay.
Right at the end. I'm gonna read the rest of the page for the paragraph going on to 128 to finish off. To start off that last little paragraph. But I want to get into this footnote because I want to ask y'all a question. It says, it is believed that the temple of Amun was not completed during Al-Sparta's lifetime, but by his successors. Is that true, or what's going on with that?
Read that again, man. I'm sorry. Would you read it again?
It is believed that the temple of Amun was not completed during Asparta's lifetime, but by his successors.
Is that true, or are you saying is that true or false?
True or false?
It's false, ain't it?
I wouldn't know because at the top it says 2 of the greatest temples were built by King Asparta at Meroe, the Sun Temple and the Temple of Amun, and then you have the footnote. So I guess it's some further research that's got done or something. I don't know.
False. I'm saying it's false.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that is because, first of all, no matter how much of Kemet all of us on this panel study, no matter what levels we at, the varying levels, right? We know it's always another human being that's living that we could all look to that can give us more. or that it's not even necessarily that, because I don't want to play into the whole religious understanding, but I want to talk about just your ability even to further your knowledge and practice your penmanship and practice reading the glyphs, identifying the signs, find them in the dictionary, look them up, you know what I'm saying, and then coming up with a translation, like, after you've determined the direction that they're facing. So it's on you to practice that. You know what I'm saying? To better your knowledge. And all I'm saying is, for a person that's in the beginning, that's reading and even picking up this book and maybe going through rereading it, like it's been a while. Let's be honest, all of us were starting to read this book, and I think you brothers have said you had to read this book again. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I didn't get it the first time I read this book.
I ain't know what the hell he was talking about, and I read this book in 2013. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I just knew it was powerful. That's all I could say. It's powerful.
That's how it be. So I'm gonna tell you how powerful it is, boy. They can't break it down, but you just know it's powerful, bro.
Yeah. But I'm glad, I'm glad we going back, and we choose this book to read this book, because, it lets me know how far I done came since 2013. I'm able to elaborate and break down and follow what's going on and be like, yeah, and I can go and I can compare this to other information that I studied. I couldn't do that in the beginning of 2013. So like I say, it just lets me know that I've been in the right direction since 2013 all the way up to 12. So I can see I have, my level of knowledge or my understanding has evolved.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go ahead and just finish off this page, and I'll turn it over because got the rest of the chapter to get through. But again, how and why did all of this disappear? How and why was it blotted out or hidden so completely for 2,000 years that an ignorant world with unprecedented research facilities in its universities still believes, teaches, and proclaims that the black man had never developed a civilization of his own? That was to my whole point in talking about this earlier, talking about this recently, and this particular chapter here with this powerful book. It's because it seemed like the conversations I've been having recently, I'm like, man, why do y'all keep, no matter how many times you talk to certain people, they're still going to walk away with their own understanding of what that conversation was. And even that aside, they still going to walk away and have their bias if they're not being an avid, true scientist about the endeavor. You have to investigate what is. Ain't no, well, in the moment you might get pissed off and, I felt like, they shouldn't have did that to us as black people. So, forget all white people. Yeah, you had that phase. And then you remember, man, I am a little emotional at times. I need to, like Brother Sinet was saying earlier, let me deal with some of this history that I was supposed to, really read and understand. Let me read it again. And that's exactly what we're doing. Because now we can understand, okay, it's not just, the black man created everything like we've been talking about. And no, it's not that. It's not a hyper-diffusionist conversation. And that's not what Afrocentricity is. For my closing point, that's not what Afrocentricity is. Not in my book. It's not being a hyper-diffusionist. It's about, look, we understand that black people came up with a lot before any other kind of people came up with some stuff. Cool. But we do understand the greatness of other cultures, and we can let them be where they are. We don't have to attach crystals and extra things. We talk about copper and conducting energy. Your nerves conduct energy in your body, similar to what you try to say that copper does, and for the pyramids and all of that. That's what's actually happening. You know what I'm saying? So I don't we can keep things separate and deal with things as they are. Let's separate these things and digest this history the way it's supposed to be digested, instead of trying to, that is hyper diffusion, is to go ahead and just put everything all in Africa, crystals, you know, 12 armed gods and all of that.
Chakras,
Electricity.
Kundalini energy,
Yoga.
yoga.
We go on about that.
You know, we could just keep going on. I mean, and we're not trying to bash anybody. You know, again, we're not trying to bash anybody, but again, you know what they say, blackology is. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people that infuse those things, they call them blackologists. They paint everything black. We don't do that over here. We definitely don't do that over here. And again, we not you know, we're not trying to talk anybody that may you know, practice yoga, you know, or we're not down on anybody that may deal with the crystals and think you get certain types of energy or you know, good things with wearing crystals, or you know,
I practice yoga, Kofi.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, ain't nothing wrong with it, right? I'm just saying, you know, it's chakras. I'm just saying, you know where you okay, you ain't gonna say that that's an African, that's African. You know, you ain't gonna say that. You're not gonna say African stamer, right? But so that's what I'm saying. And everybody tries to paint everything to be African, you know, and especially if it works good. If it works good, man, that comes from Africa. That's African, you know, because it works good, it's popular, so therefore Africans or black people or whatever the term you may consider yourself are those people on the continent to be, they created those things.
Kofi, and then I want to move on. I think a lot of us, when we first coming into the knowledge, you know, it's a romanticism that goes on with whatever you study in the whether it's the Bible, whether you study in Africa, whether you touch the spirituality system, whether you touch in Kemet, whatever, you know, whenever you finding out about new knowledge, you know, it could possibly be your ancestors, you know, it's going to be some romanticizing that goes on for the first, you know, couple years that you're dealing with it, you know, and then after that, you start getting around people, you start gaining knowledge, you start building, and, you know, you compare notes, and then you say, okay, that's what I thought 2 years ago was wrong, you know, you come to the realization. So it's all, it's all levels to it, man. And the people that, you know, advance in the knowledge, they move on from romanticizing and they deal with correct method. The people that still romanticize are still stuck and they don't deal with science. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm able to discern when it comes to that. But how was you on your point, T'Challa? You get that off?
Yeah, bro, we can go on and move forward.
Okay, so I'm gonna deal with the let's see, the second paragraph, and on 129, and so in my notes I got that they built monuments forever and it correlated with immortality. This little passage right here struck me, so I want to talk about that and see how the brothers feel about it. So second paragraph, it says, during the different periods in which NAPTA came under a foreign yoke, the capital city of Meroe had to become somewhat holy in its own right, and many of the kings, queens, and other leaders were buried in pyramids there. These were constructed of stone outside of the city proper, sometimes at a visible distance of 2 or more miles. They were built to stand forever in an attempt to stem for the Africans' actual belief of immortality. This was why their faith included natural assumptions that those who had passed on, their ancestors, were living in the great beyond and were therefore in the most favorable position to represent the interests of their kinsmen below, or in short, to serve as mediators between God and man. So that little paragraph there, man, that's powerful, because like I said, when you first read this book, you just zooming through it, you don't know what he talking about, and then I come back to it and I read it and I'm like, okay, they build monuments and then they build them to last forever, you know, and a lot of not a lot of African spiritual systems, but I know the one that I deal with, particularly in Kemet, you know, the immortality, you know, every king, you know, they always made sure that they were laid down properly. Not every king, but you know what I'm saying. I don't want to be too technical, but you know, you got technical people on here. Oh, he said every king, but the most prominent ones, you know, they prepare for their death. You know, you got the Valley of the Kings, you got the pyramids, all this stuff. You know, these are funerary things, and then you have the funerary texts as well. So, yeah, how y'all feel about that? The passage I just read.
What? Let's hear from Sean, man. Excuse me. You still on here, Sean?
I'm still in the bathroom, man. You know, I'm fresh out the shower.
It's too much information. Anybody else?
No, yeah, that was just to my point too. That we didn't know what was going on reading this thing, and doing the like this, like book club style. Like, yo, we get a chapter a week basically. Okay, now collective minds, because one tree don't make a forest. So what Kofi learned, I'm gonna learn. What Satep learned, Sutek gonna learn. You know what I'm saying? So it's reciprocity. I feel like it's a give and take, because I'd be interested to hear what y'all think about what we reading, and if I'm interpreting it, maybe I might be misinterpreting something. I might need my viewpoint adjusted in terms of what is versus what I think it is. So I think that's the beauty of this.
I got a question, Satep. All right, Napata became like the holiest of the holiest. That became holy ground. That place in Napata, and it's talking about the pyramids. It's talking about it's somewhat holy in its own right, and many of the kings, queens, and other leaders were buried in the pyramids there. So that area of Napata had pyramids as well. I know, but I'm just asking that, for people that might, because we always hear about Kemet. Kemet, when we think of pyramids in Africa, our assumption always goes to Kemet. But there was pyramids in Africa that was outside of Africa as well. So there were pyramids in that area, correct?
Yeah, when you say you mean outside of the borders of Egypt that we know of today.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there were. Now I believe, I haven't been studying my Kemetic stuff in a while, but I believe there is more pyramids there than there are in the south of Kemet. So yeah, there's more pyramids down in the what we would call the Nubian area or the 25th dynasty area than there are. So yeah, you are correct, Kofi. Yeah, if y'all ain't got nothing else on that,
yeah. Go to what you got. What you finna keep building on that, or you want to go to another page?
Yeah, because I want to deal with how they diverted. Unless y'all want to talk about the stuff at the bottom of this page, I want to deal with how they diverted the water and dealt with the agricultural aspect of thing.
Yeah, we can go on, man. I kind of had some, but I mean,
Go ahead.
No, it was. I have to go back. I have to go back 2 pages, but go ahead, because that's kind of dope. Where you finna go with that as well when we dealing with the agriculture. So you finna go to 31, correct? Page 131.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I got some on 31 too, so I'll follow up behind you.
Okay, so I'm gonna deal with the second paragraph. It says, the Africans met the challenge by constructing a national system of Well, I probably should just start at the top, because we don't know what the challenge is. All right, so let me just start at the top. All right, the first paragraph. 3,000 years ago, the desert, while slowly moving in on Africa, had not advanced to where it is today. There is more arable land in Ethiopia, although its agriculture did not match that of the rich delta region of Egypt. The blacks were, however, mainly agriculturalists like other Africans. Even with their remarkable industrial development, farming went on both sides where their 2 Niles met, and the land before continuing as one great river through Egypt on the Mediterranean Sea. Nor should the importance of Atbara River overlooked. Even though the surrounding desert were a problem insofar as agricultural expansion was desired, the more immediate problem was famine and drought. There were years during which no rain fell at all, and not a hopeful cloud appeared in the sky. So that's the challenge right there. That's why I went back on ahead and just read that paragraph. The Africans met the challenge by constructing a national system of reservoirs. Now this is important, y'all. These reservoirs and stuff, because, and I'm gonna just stop right there for a second. Prior to people, I'll say Paleolithic, because the Neolithic is the word that means man post agriculture. Paleolithic means man prior to agriculture. So man prior to agriculture in the Paleolithic time, if there was no rain, you moving. You're not about to sit around. You're not about to build no reservoirs. You going to where the rain at. You going where the land at. You going where the animals at. You going to where it's sweet at. You're not cultivating the land. So in Neolithic period times, which is what we're talking about now, this is a problem for the Africans, but they come up with a solution, and it's the reservoirs. All right. These were strategically located around the capital at Massawaret, Naga, Hordan, Usada, and the Gizra region at Duned, Bassa, and doubtlessly at other sites not yet excavated. This master plan to defeat drought and famine by a system of reservoirs was more important than all other agricultural art that found expression in the beautiful statues, temples, palaces, columns, and pyramids. So these reservoirs, these is way more important than anything that they ever built. You know what I'm saying? It's more important than the temples, the pyramids, all that stuff, because without water, you can't survive without water.
Right. It's what they said, right. So it became for their survival. So their survival was more important than all that other beautified stuff that people will be in awe of. Yeah.
Yeah, the romanticism, like all that was more important. The reservoirs were more significant than the monuments, important as these were in hiding the black man's intellectual achievements and the invention of writing deep under the sands. This is the author here now. I rate the reservoirs as a supreme achievement because they reflect the real measure of African man as he met the challenge to survive head on, in which constructive counterattack against the adverse forces of earth, sun, and sky. The irrigation system made responsibly effective with their oxen-powered wheels, so they had ox, as part of which the challenge to adverse circumstances. So, and this is one of the reasons why I respect Mesopotamia so much. I know people in the conscious community, if you like Egypt, you can't like Mesopotamia, but I actually like Mesopotamia because it's a desert there as well, and they built aqueducts and all that stuff, reservoirs and all that stuff, just as we did in Kemet as well. So whenever you're able to do that, take on the elements like that and create stuff to divert water to where you can stay and you ain't got to be nomadic and move. You move the water. That's powerful, man.
Yeah. You gonna finish the rest of it because I'm.
Well, that's it for me. If you want to go down to where you're talking about Pianki, but
no. Okay, well, you read the whole thing.
I read the whole thing where it says
okay, yeah. So like we were stating that those reservoirs, those irrigation systems was more important to them than all the beautified things that was in Kemet for their survival. But I want to tell y'all a story, and this story is somebody can, not nobody on the panel, but anybody in the chat can tell me where this come out of the book at. I'll give you a free book. and I'm talking about my as I learned. Oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. I just messed it up. But anyway, okay, I messed it up. But let's go back to this irrigation system. Now it's funny to me, and I smiled when I reread this, and I'm gonna tell you why I smile. And I had it highlighted also in my book because I wanted to talk about it too. And I knew, I kind of knew, you know, when you said you want to talk about the agriculture, I said he finna deal with it. So, you know, I want to talk about where I was just going back when we was talking about when we all first read the book. When we all first read the book, we weren't in a place that we are now. You know, we weren't as advanced as we were when we first read, you know, this book. So, you know, we all going back and we looking at this book. I'm gonna share a story that everybody knows that I'm a Mason, you know, I'm a brother of the craft, and I'm not active, but I was active I've been a Mason for 15, going on 16 years. I've been active. I'm talking about active consistently for 13 years, and I've been a traveling Mason. I mean, I done traveled all over the United States, and you know, I was, you know, very advanced in masonry, and I began to take on, being a lecturer, and I became over my own lodge. And I'm gonna tell you how I became awake. I'm gonna tell you how I became awake in 2012. That's why I smile so much.
They gotta get the book, Kofi. They gotta get the book.
I want to go on and share it with. I would just share this with them. I would just share it with them because it's in the book. It's in there. As I learned, we all learn. Sharing information with others, deepen your own knowledge. My book, and but I came into consciousness or being aware because of talking about the Egyptian irrigation system. Now I ain't gonna say I was taught because I began to advance more than others that was in my lodge at a particular time, which got me my own lodge, which got me become a lecturer, a district lecturer across the district, and allowed me to start traveling to other places. And I began to build a library of Masonic books, and it's in that book too. I have pictures to validate what I'm saying, for as the information where I was getting this information from, and I was getting this information from Albert Mackey. Albert Mackey has a book, Freemasonry something, I can't remember, but it was 6 volumes, six books. And in his book, he's a scholar. Albert Pack and Albert Mackey. Albert Mackey is a scholar in the Masonic world. And those 6 volumes of books that I read, they're pretty thick too. You can look at it in my book that I got. He says that Moses was the person that came into Egypt, you know, and created these irrigation systems and brought all the knowledge to Egypt, right? So I was arguing with another Masonic brother from another state, and we was going back and forth on the Freemasonry Facebook page, and then we exchanged numbers. I began to call him, and I shut up from arguing with him over the phone, and I humbled myself, and I just listened to him because the information what he was saying had resonated with me. So, you know, this whole thing about the irrigation system of Egypt irrigation system is what brought me to, it's crazy, but that's what brought me to consciousness of being aware. Was I thought Moses brought all the knowledge and created these irrigation systems for their survival.
Well, see, Kofi, that's what they tell you. That's what they tell you, and that's what they want you to believe. Mm-hmm. And basically what I was saying, because I got a lot of respect for Mesopotamia because they did the same thing. And if you look at the story in the Bible, what's his name? You said Moses, or did you say Abraham?
Moses.
Okay, so but Moses is of the lineage of Abraham, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they if you look at Abraham, I believe he's from Ur or some shit like that.
Ur or Chaldea.
Yeah, and that's over there in Mesopotamia.
Yeah, that's in Mesopotamia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's over there in that area. Mm-hmm. So they would try to use that to equate that Abraham brought that or Moses brought it. One of them two brought that over there. So you got to watch it, you know, and I'm familiar with it. Like I said, I got respect for it, but you're not going to trick me either. So I'm aware of it.
As soon as they made that play, then the source for the 10,000-year-old jump pops up where they show the irrigation and all of that, how they were dealing with dams and all of that
Yeah.
in Kemet. So then it throws that out of the water when they try to make that argument. So
Right.
is he 10,000 years old now?
And what was going on 10,000 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
10,000 years ago, we were just coming out of Paleolithic period, moving into the Neolithic period. People, we got it, man. When you're dealing with this type of stuff, you got to be able to deal with the history. You got to be able to deal with geology. You got to be able to deal with anthropology. At least,
Mm-hmm.
at least have some type of basis in it. You ain't got to be perfect at any one. Be good at one, but be versed in others. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Tap in that prehistory archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, archaeology.
Yep. Yep. But I mean, I ain't got nothing. I mean, that's what I was gonna deal with on page 31. Any of y'all brothers got something else before I go with? I don't, because I got to find out where I wanted to come at, but and we ain't got that many pages left. We got like 3 pages left to conclude this chapter 4.
Or page 131.
We already dealt with 131. We tore that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We could. I mean, I don't want to keep.
31 though. That's why I was trying to be clear.
Yeah. We was on page 131.
Yeah, we was on that. We on 132 now. If anybody got anything for 132, because this is this is my last little thing, and then y'all got it after this. But this 132, Kofi, is dealing with your question again. It's dealing with that question you asked again.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go ahead and read it. First paragraph. And we talking about that iron again. Y'all remember I was speaking about how iron and copper and how they they was dealing with the copper, but the Assyrians and everybody else was dealing with the iron, and the Egyptians were dealing with the copper, which was like softer metal. So they're going to explain to you why they was dealing with the copper right here. Iron was the basis of the technological revolution in warfare. That the Assyrians, Hittites, Persians, and other Asiatic nations are equipping their armies with the new types of iron weapons, and that these were devastating, more effective than stone and copper weapons, had to be well known to the Africans. It was not news, as was mentioned before, that not only knew about the use of iron, but they had long since developed the iron smelting process. So he's saying they've been dealing with iron. So why weren't they using it? The trouble was the highly secretive royal monopoly. No secret was more zealously guarded than the smelting of iron. So they keeping this from the people. They didn't want the people to know about smelting iron. This meant rigidly limited production.
And can I? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Now I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, like, and I'm not. I want to deal with it a little bit, and I don't know specifically in Egypt, and it could be in Egypt because I wanted to deal with a page where it talks about a lot of people begin to leave and leave Africa. Where did these people go after the 25th dynasty? It's no Egyptians in or Africans in Egypt. It is Arabs that is in there. So the people was there. They, but we'll talk about that in a minute because I want to ask, where the hell did these people go? But just dealing with it from, if you look at it in West Africa, even if you look at it in East Africa, you was well respected if you deal with this skill set of smelting iron, or you deal with iron in general. So they broke everything down into like different groups and like different societies. In some groups, if you deal with copper, you might have been a part of this ethnic group and you lived over here, and that knowledge of copper was dealt with this specific group of people or with this group of society. The same thing with iron. So maybe, and I'm just saying, I could be wrong, but with it saying that, where was it said that the secret royal monopolies, no secrets was more zealous guarded than the smelting of iron. This meant that the rigorous limited of production. Here was a fear of mass. So saying that it was limited. You know, a lot of people didn't know about iron in general, iron work or smelting iron, or you know how to play with iron in general, and it was on a specific group. So I'm very sure that there was a group, because if you was an iron, you know, you was a blacksmith and etc. You know, you was highly praised, and you was a part of this blacksmith society, just like they was talking about these secret societies, which they said was a secrecy. So it might was, and then a lot of times you had to be born into a specific group of people that specifically deal with this. So it might have been a limit, or it might have not been a lot of this group of ethnic people, and this is why it's limited, or why it wasn't shared, because they wasn't a part of this blacksmith society, because they had to be born. A lot of these things you had to be born into specific groups, a specific ethnic group, to learn these types of skill sets, to learn this secret, you know, this secret knowledge of copper or smelting iron, you know, agriculture, all these other different things. So that might have been a thing on it, was you was not a part of this clan, you know, this, you know, a part of this specific group that deal with this specific skill set. So they wanted to keep it.
They go. Let me finish reading.
Okay, because I done forgot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me finish reading.
Good point, because everything Kofi said, we could go right over to West Africa right now today. It's
Right.
thing.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, let's see. This man, rigid limited production. Here was fear out of matching both reason and the most elementary common sense. This over secretiveness, which inhabited the expansion of iron production, was to contribute mightily to the success of the Syrian armies over them. Prosperity too may have blurred the Africans' vision. Too much success can be dangerous. In this case, so much wealth was piled up from foreign trade, especially in gold, ivory, copper, and other questions of iron, if raised, may have been dismissed as economically unsound. Whatever the reasons were, the fact is that the great iron industry, which had developed in the center spreading over Africa, could have spread it centuries before, even as early as 300 BC, when iron smelting was employed for more useful purpose than ornaments. The royal monopoly still prevented widespread use. That they knew of the importance of iron is shown by the fact that the king and high priest were often heads of the guild, and the chief iron master would often gain the status of what a prime minister is today.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the delay, iron smelting and tool making got underway on vast scale in Ethiopia at the most crucial period of Africa. So this answers your question right here, Kofi. That they knew of the importance of the iron is shown by the fact that the king and high priest were often heads of the guild, and the chief iron master would have often gained status of a prime minister today. They didn't want, the reason why I think they kept the monopoly so tight is because they didn't want the chief iron master gaining too much power. That's just my opinion on why they, held back on that. Because if you know how to do one thing and you're the only one that know how to do that, you can create a monopoly. That's the root of capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people don't like capitalism, but if you're the only one that can do it, but see that hurt them in the end though, Kofi. That's what I'm saying, because they was like, we don't want that. What I'm getting out of that part is they like, we don't want this person to be too powerful, so our success is blinding our vision. That if we don't use iron, we can use copper. It's a lesser metal. We don't see nobody coming in here trying to take us over. But that messed them up, because the Syrians, the Hittites, and all them, they use iron ore, man. They hungry. They want what Egypt got. We using the tip-top technology on the market right now. So when we go there to get it and take it over, we know they got We know they got knives and we got guns. That's basically what it was. You know what I'm saying? They was making armor out of copper as well. Even though copper is light, copper is light. Copper is light. But yeah, that iron ore was something. So I don't know, Kofi. I think maybe the Royals they kept dude tight, but they didn't want him getting too much power.
Could be. I can see that. I can see that. Yep.
But I think that's it for me.
Yeah, because we going into the last 2 pages.
Let me say this footnote real quick because I did have a footnote down here.
Okay.
It says this whole period of black achievement is minimized by writers who substitute Meroe, the city, for Ethiopia. The empire Ethiopian writings then becomes the Moetic inscriptions. So this footnote right here just let me know that writers in history are equating the city of Meroe as Ethiopia as a whole, and that's just not the case. You know what I'm saying? But that's it though. That's all I had.
Yeah. Anybody got anything on that same page or on page? He bought at the end of page 32.
Yeah, 2 more pages left. So 3.
So anybody got anything on 133? All right. Well, we can skip page 33. Then I'll go into. Hold on. I might go into that. Well, let's go into the Christian Africa, which is on page 35. And I think this is the last page because we didn't have but 2 pages left. So I'll just go on to the last page. Right here. We on page 135 right here. This is Christian Africa. Africa was naturally among the first area to which Christianity spread. It was next door to Palestine. And from the earliest time, there had been the closest relationships between the Jewish and the blacks. And from that earliest time, there has been a closest relationship between the Jews and the blacks. I'm trying to understand what they're saying by that. They saying, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't even when I read that, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
When they had a close relationship with the Jews. Are they referring to that at the time when, Kemet became this great empire and then expanded his empire and it went into the Levant area. It was over Palestine or what we call Israel today. That was one place that they conquered at that time. Is that what they referring to as they conquered that land and expanded their empire there? That they had God build a relationship with the Jews. That's something I didn't understand. What he was saying right there. They had the closest relationship between the Jews and the blacks, both friendly and hostile. The exchange of pre-Christianity religion concepts took place easily and due to the residence of so many Jewish leaders in Ethiopia. Abraham, Joseph, and his brothers Mary and Jesus. The great lawgiver Moses was not only born in Africa, but he was also married to a daughter of an African priest. And if you remember the story of reading about Moses being married to an Ethiopian, Aaron and his kinsmen, they shunned him. They shunned him. They talked about him being married to a black woman or being married to an Ethiopian. They didn't deal with that. They didn't like that. The pathway for the earliest Christian church.
Racism in the Bible. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Right. Exactly. And the pathway for the early Christianity church and the land of the blacks had been made smooth for many centuries before. In a different work, I suggest that a major reason why so many later Christian missionaries failed in Africa was because they were bringing refurbished religious doctrine that came from Africa in the first place. The religious belief and sacrifice for the remission of sin was an African belief and practice at least 2,000 years before Abraham. And again, we have to look at certain things too. Like when we reading this, we have to look at when this book was published. We don't pose that anymore, that Christianity was a refurbished African African religion, or even the results of the remission of sin. I don't, with me studying extensively in West Africa and even studying in East Africa and South Africa, I don't see that where their man has fallen, or society has fallen in what we call sin, and now therefore someone come back to take away their sins or sacrifice their self for sin. Again, this is a European concept, and that perspective, I mean, we can throw that out the water right now. Not taking nothing from Chancellor Williams, but again, you have to understand that research is always updating itself. Every day, and science is always involved.
Spitting out the bones, Kofi.
Yeah. So right. So you spitting out the bones. You eat and say, I'm glad you said that. And I know a lot of people do this, and I ain't gonna say no name, Sean. But when you find something that you disagree with and you know that it's not accurate, again, you have to like I deal with when I'm reading things, I deal with a method that is good for me, and I talk about it. And I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to talk about everything in my book. As I learn, we all learn, sharing information with others, deepen your own knowledge. But I talk about what I use, which is called the KWL, and I'm not going to go and tell you what it is because I want you to read the book and how I approach things and this new method that even the schools and the universities are using, have been using, but a lot of people don't talk about it. But I use this type of method because it helps me, and I infuse other methodology with it. And I infuse different methodologies and come up with what I got, which I talk about. I made a chart or a spinning wheel that I use when I talk about sharing information, but I'm not going to talk about it. You have to get the book to get that. But a lot of people read something in a book, and when they find out that it's not, that if it's not accurate, they throw the whole book away. You can't throw the whole book away, and this just me, and I'm speaking for me. Every book I read, I don't give a damn who it is, and I'm saying that because I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is, and I respect a lot of scholars, and we seeing brilliant minds in real time right now. When we talk about Brother Saar, we talk about other scholars. I'm not going to even mention their names at this time, like I used to mention their names at this time for whatever particular reason, where they know why. But anyway, these other scholars, when I read something, I don't believe that every book I read is 100% right and exact. So I'm not going to utter off every word in the book, even when I compare and come up with consensus and say that, okay, this is law. This book is law. This book was 100% exact. I don't do that. A lot of people see some errors in a book or some flaws in a book, and then they throw the whole book away. And again, just like T'Challa says, you have to eat the fish and spit out the bones, and this is a great text. And just because I know better when we dealing with this particular thing, when he's talking about the refurbishing of the remission of Christianity was a refurbishment of African religion. You know what I'm saying? And what does he say in here? What does he say? He said the religion beliefs intersect 2,000 years. I forgot. He said something else too. But I know that, the remission of sin, when he talk about sin as being a part of African culture, tradition, and with the things that I have read and studied, I don't see them talking about man falling because of sin, or someone did a particular thing that fell out of sight, which condemned everyone because one particular person did something that their God wasn't pleased for, and some savior coming back and saving them, and sacrificing themselves. Again, that is a Western standpoint. I talk about this in volume 1. I don't know what the chapter is because I don't wrote so much stuff, I don't know what the name of the chapter is, but I talk about that and I deal with that in the book. But again, you have to take in context when you're reading certain books. You have to take in context when this book was published. And I have a lot of books on my shelf that's, been published during the 19th and the 20th century. So I have to take heed of certain things that I read because
I do, Kofi?
What you do?
This is what I do, and we're gonna go ahead and end the show, and we can do the after show if y'all want to do an after show.
Hell, I'm done after this. I ain't doing. I'm
I don't want to be. I don't want the show to be too long, but
okay.
Yeah, you better be done.
Yeah, because we already know that's what you deal with. You think that because you deal with, you see one flaw in the book, you think you throw the whole book in the garbage can. But go ahead.
Flaw. I don't dismiss a whole. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So let's read Ivan Van Sertima book again. Let's go to David.
No, Sean. Wait. Listen, we're gonna do an after show right now. We can end this show right now, man. We can deal with it. I got time tonight. I ain't gotta work. We can deal with it.
I ain't fooling with y'all all night.
This is what
Don't run now.
That's what we gonna do. We gonna go ahead and do the show. I'm gonna let everybody except Sean say their last piece. Sean, matter of fact, Sean, you go ahead and set the after show up right now while we waiting, and let everybody say their last piece. So next week, y'all, we gonna go ahead and end the show. Sean setting up the after show now. Next week we doing chapter 5. It's called The Two That Carried On. So we're gonna deal with that. Go ahead, T'Challa.
Yeah, this was a good show. Definitely a good chapter. We appreciate everybody who tuned in. Hopefully you learned something when you tune in to our videos. We want to educate you. Like and share the show, subscribe, keep supporting. We're gonna keep giving back. And peace.
All right. Peace, T'Challa. What's up, Sute?
Yeah, man. Good bill. Can't wait for next week. Appreciate all y'all for coming through. Make sure y'all come through to the after show, man. We ain't done yet.
All right. Kofi, you done?
Yeah, I just want to say, man, my favorite things are, my same thing, same spiel, just Shimim Hotep, we said ETM Hotep in the beginning, which means to come in peace. Now we're saying Shimim Hotep because we want y'all to depart in peace. Also, like you said, continue to support us. Y'all give to us, we definitely give back. Please go and support all our various work, Spirits of the Masi, Volume 1. Historical Survey in the Minds of African Warrior Scholars, Volume 1. Also go pick up from Spirits of Pen, the Historical Survey in the Minds of African Warrior Scholars, Volume 2. Also go pick up One Night Before Bed, Sean's children book up under the Kofi Paisai research team. And boom, yeah, you got your book. Hold on, let me put it up. And Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland, the book that what's the name was holding up by my children book, which is also on the Kofi Paisai research team, Masi Warrior Clan imprint, from cocaine to consciousness. And as I learned, we all learn, sharing information with others deepens your own knowledge. And please go out and cop Volume 3 this Friday on Black Friday. Spiritual, it's not spiritual, it's spiritual. SPEARITUAITUAL, Spiritual Combat. Volume 3 will be available on Amazon and Kofi Paisai Research, Kofi Paisai TV.com, our website, and check out our Mboka Family Connected Apparel online store, which will be available also on the 27th, which is Black Friday. I'll be posting all week different clothing because we got a clothing line, not a t-shirt line. We got a clothing line. We have the Mboka brand, we have the Kofi Paisai Research brand, and we have the Masi Warrior Clan brand. I'll post some things on the Masi Warrior thing, and all of our stuff. Some of it's the same, but we have a lot of different other things. So that's it, man. That's all I have, man. Peace and appreciate y'all for supporting us, man.
All right, peace, y'all. We're gonna keep this under 2 hours. So I'm gonna end the broadcast. Check out the after show, y'all. We come, like Sean said, we coming right back. So he probably already got it set up. So we'll see y'all. Check out the after show.